Welcome to Built by Us, the podcast where we explore the stories and strategies behind those shaping our communities and driving positive change. I'm your host, Jamie Arroyo, CEO of Assets, and today we have a truly inspiring guest with us. Amer Al Fayadh is the founder and CEO of Communication Essentials, where he leads consultations and oversees various language access services. After resetting in the United States in 2010, Amer embarked on a journey that would see him deeply engaged with diverse communities and harness the power of communication. Amer's dedication to fostering understanding and connection is evident in his leadership at Communication Essentials, where he continues to advocate for the importance of effective communication and bridging cultural and linguistic divides. Join me in welcoming Amer to Built by Us, where we uncover the stories of those building a brighter future for all of us. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your superhero origin story. Like growing up, where are you originally from and what brought you to the United States?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm originally from Iraq in the Middle East. And what brought me to the United States, it's a complex story, but to put it in a few words, looking for safety. You know, I had a successful business in Iraq, and I was feeling comfortable living in Iraq, but because of safety and lack of safety, I had to leave home. And as I tell people, no one leaves home under their own terms, and most people are forced to leave home. So looking for safety, that's what brought me to the United States.
Yeah. And what made you want to call Lancaster home?
It's a beautiful place. I would not replace it for the world. My brother lived in South Central Pennsylvania, and my family, when they got resettled after I did, they were resettled here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I loved it. I loved it from the beginning.
Yeah. Lancaster has a rich history of welcoming new citizens to the area. We were talking about immigration and folks working in agriculture throughout Lancaster County. My grandfather used to come to Lancaster and work on the farms here, and this is how my family got connected to this area, which is always a surprise because I probably would have picked somewhere with a beach or something. But Lancaster County is pretty cool to start a family and raise a family here, which you have a pretty big family, a lot of beautiful children.
I'm blessed. Yes, five kids. They keep us busy, and I worked in immigrant and refugee services for almost 10 years prior to starting my own business, and I had great privilege of serving people here in Lancaster County. I met people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Got to hear their stories. Got to share their success, share their sadness and struggle too, and that helps me drive my business in the right direction today.
Yeah. So we actually met back in 2018. Is that right? 2017. Wow, my years are off. But it was for the Great Social Enterprise pitch for Assets. And this is actually where I believe the birth of your idea for your business started. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I think Asset has continue to have a great impact on my business. When I worked in refugee resettlement, one of the things that I wanted is for the skills of immigrants to be recognized, for immigrants also to have the connection and the linkage to the community that they live in. So I thought interpretation gave me that opportunity. As an interpreter, I had to go to the hospital, I had to go to nonprofits, government offices, school districts, etc., and I got to see things happening firsthand. And that's how I got to learn more and more about the community. So I said, what if we put the two together? Give the immigrants, people who are smarter than me, more skilled than me, the opportunity, to link to those organizations. And that could open up the doors for someone who's new to find a job in a field that is related to what they've done in the past before coming to the United States. And that was the idea. And that's how I presented it at that time to Asset. And, they've been supportive since then.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was really cool to see you go through your journey, which eventually is now your business, and you're involved in a lot of different things. But one of the things I've appreciated about your role as an entrepreneur, especially starting Communication Essentials, I think back then it was Language Beyond Borders, if I remember
Correct,
correctly.
yes.
Yeah,
Give the credit, of course, to CWS for their
yeah,
support too.
yeah, yeah. It's cool that your business as a social enterprise gave, I think, people an opportunity to see something that is sometimes limited when they come to the United States, actually their advantage, which is language, right? I think, you hear a lot of stories when folks come here is it's to assimilate, you learn English, you have to speak in that way. And sometimes our language gets lost, which is a huge piece of us. But you made it their superpower. Was that something that you were trying to intentionally do through your business?
This is something that I try my hardest with my kids and
Hmm.
also other immigrant kids in the community,
Hmm.
uh, is remind parents, and when I worked in refugee resettlement, remind parents that don't worry about English. English will be natural to them.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, they're gonna learn English quickly, but try to preserve their culture and try to preserve their language. It's not in a negative way,
Hmm.
but when you have an understanding to multiple cultures, to multiple languages, that open up the doors for you
Hmm.
to different worlds,
Yeah.
and that gives you advantage that will not only benefit you but also benefit the community that you live in when you have open doors to other worlds
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
And in my business, again, like I've been an interpreter for the longest.
Hmm.
Uh, it's been a great thing to have. It's a great skill to have. I remember like being in hospitals, and the first thing that people like say, "Thank you for being here for me.
Hmm.
You helped me understand today." And this
Yeah.
is a value. And immigrants sometimes, unfortunately, they feel undervalued
Hmm.
because of not being able to give the community back from the skills and the experiences that they brought with them
Yeah.
due to limited exposure,
Hmm.
limited opportunities in this community, but they want to give back, and
Hmm.
every way possible for them to give back gonna make them feel happier and happier.
Yeah. And I think, I thought about your business actually a lot. So, me and my wife unfortunately had some challenging moments with my son's health when he was first born, his first year, a lot of trips to the hospital. And I thought about your business specifically and the work that you do because I saw how powerful it was. Um, well, let me actually reverse that. How challenging it was to actually understand sometimes what was being told to us. And it was in English. My wife is a registered nurse. She understands medical terminology. And we still felt that there was a barrier there. We still felt that there was sometimes confusion, a lack of clarity, and scary moments, especially during a time of a lot of pressure. And when we left that situation, I told my wife, it's just like, can you imagine not knowing English or having other barriers in your way in getting medical care, getting health care? So I think it speaks to the importance of having access to language services, whether it's in healthcare or other forms of resources in our community.
100%. And part of the work that I do is consulting
Hmm.
on training. Although like I started as a interpretation and translation
Hmm.
agency, but I realized quickly that it's not only language,
Hmm.
it's culture.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand how to navigate cultural differences as a medical provider
Hmm.
or even as an individual seeking treatment,
Yeah.
it makes it harder for you to communicate, even
Hmm.
if it's like you said, even if it's said in English.
Hmm.
Sometimes like the way that things are explained kind of create more confusion
Hmm.
rather than clarity.
Yeah.
And this is something that I emphasize to my team all the time. We are at the front and center of important conversations. So we have to try our due diligence to make sure that the conversation is as clear as it possibly could be. And also for the documents that I was translating, that the documents to be not 100%, but 110%.
Yeah.
Because those documents, those conversations could and potentially could impact someone's life.
Yeah. Tell me, so you mentioned you go beyond just translation services. Talk to me a little bit about cultural humility and the importance of organizations to embrace cultural humility.
Absolutely. So, like I mentioned, the story starts with my work in refugee and immigrants services. And I can tell you so many conversations that I had with people that although we spoke a common language, but we have a different cultural background. And sometimes communication was a struggle. And I learned from those lessons. And those lessons are the lessons that I put in my work today, and in the trainings that I do in the community, on the consulting that I do in the community. Uh, I tell organizations and businesses when I meet with them, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the people that we serve. And if we have a mission as an organization, how can we live up to the mission of our organization? And that's when the conversations start. That's when okay, let me look at it. How can I make my services accessible? How can I make my physical space accessible to people whom I sound different, look different than I am, and make everyone feel welcome in that space.
Yeah. And that's something I appreciate about the way you approach your work. It goes beyond just, you know, having accessible material or marketing material translated. Is actually the creating the space to be welcoming for individuals. Because sometimes I think organizations might feel that they can translate to a different language, but if your workspace or your office isn't, or whatever environment isn't welcoming to people that they feel safe and comfortable in, they're not going to come regardless if there's material in their language there. It needs to be the entire environment holistically there to be accessible for the client.
100%. 100%. I remember COVID in 2020. Organizations had to shut down their physical locations and operate remotely, and that was a struggle to a lot of people that are accustomed to face-to-face interactions. Now they have to go through different obstacles in order for them to get a live person on the phone. And how do you navigate systems when you are not accustomed to those systems? So I've had the privilege of working with people during that time and witnessing those challenges, but also I witnessed some successful examples. And one of them that I still speak of today is Union Community Care. They had a phone number for people to call if they are feeling any symptoms that could resemble COVID. And I didn't believe that there is accessibility, real accessibility, until I tried it myself.
Yeah.
And after I tried to call the phone number, I spoke to the nurse. I felt confident that there is accessibility, true accessibility. And I started referring people to that phone number. Call that number, they will take care of you. And that's the beauty of giving true accessibility to people, because people will turn around and tell others about you. And that's the best marketing tool that you can have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Union Community Care, they were on the front lines during the pandemic. So it's they did a lot of great work making sure they were reaching underserved communities or people that just maybe had barriers to accessing healthcare during that time period. So
100%.
and when you have a success story, you're going to tell your friends and family that you had a good experience somewhere.
Exactly. So for anybody that is listening to us today, if you are looking for the best marketing tool, is do good to your customers or to your clients, and they will refer more people to you.
Yeah. I remember during Amer and I had the privilege of sitting on the Reinventing Our Communities cohort, now the Reimagining Our Communities cohort. And we talked a lot about what does recovery for businesses look like in the pandemic or post-pandemic era. And a lot of the resource providers were in that room. And we talked a lot about how do we create a welcoming space. And I know for me, coming into the coming back to Assets as the CEO, we were mostly remote, and now folks were sometimes in the office, sometimes not. But having that conversation with you was very enlightening for me, that everyone come back and be in person. Now, remote is an option; it's a tool we can use. But as a community development organization, it's important to have that face-to-face interaction and be accessible to the community that we serve. So even knocking down those barriers and being accessible in person is super important.
Yeah. Be adaptive.
Yeah.
That's be flexible, be open to new ideas. Yes, we've done it for the past 10 years, but that doesn't mean that, we should do it like the same way for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Thinking about I like to put it in perspective. If it's a business or even a nonprofit organization, would you like to have more clients? Would you would you like to have bigger impact? Would you like to have bigger footprint in the community? And if the answer is yes to all these questions, okay, perfect. There are ways that you could do that by engaging the community more, by going out of, and I don't want to call it like going out of your way, because the community way is your way.
Yeah.
But getting out there and be in the community. And that's how you get people to trust you and to believe that you will be there for them today and tomorrow and 10 years from now.
This special podcast episode is built by the Lancaster County Community Foundation, which uses this transformational potential of community-based philanthropy and the power of endowment to help shape a Lancaster County where every individual is valued, has a sense of belonging, and has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you to our friends at the Lancaster County Community Foundation for making it possible to provide access to training and lending for entrepreneurs. Presence goes a long way, and just being present somewhere and being accessible is important. That's something I joke around because I feel like I see you everywhere, Amer. Whether I'm at a community event, whether there's a business conversation happening, I see you everywhere, and that's I think it speaks to your presence. Like you are making sure that you are visible and accessible to all folks in the community. So it's always good to see you out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I owe this community a lot. This community gave me a lot, and it's in my turn to give back to this community. To give you a little bit of perspective, back home in Iraq, you have government services and you have private sector services. There is no middle ground. And coming here to the United States and learning about nonprofits and what they do for the community and how they operate, it was like super interesting and super refreshing to see that there are people like you who are out there to do good for the community. And they don't work for the government and they don't work for the private sector. They work for the nonprofit sector. And that's something I will say that I do my best to stay focused on as a social enterprise. I call Communication Essentials a social enterprise because if there is a good in any situation that will have a greater impact on the community, I want to be part of it.
Yeah.
I want to be part of every conversation. I want to be part of every new initiative if it will do good toward the community that we live in.
Yeah. And you definitely have paid it forward. So you actually sit on the board of directors now, or you are a board of director for Assets, which we're grateful for your service in that capacity. It's been a cool full circle moment to see you as a client and then now helping steer the ship a little bit.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. It makes me proud. Makes me proud because Assets was and is part of my story.
Yeah. So going back to your journey, what are some challenges that you had to overcome to get to this point, from starting the business back in, I guess, 2017 till now? What are some things that, some challenges that you went through that help get you to this point?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said in the beginning, give the credit to CWS for their support to starting the business. I started as a program of CWS, and with 2020 and COVID and the uncertainty of COVID, I made the decision with consulting with CWS is moving forward and opening the program as its own entity. And that's when I transitioned. I learned a lot from being part of a global nonprofit organization, because decision making has different mechanisms than a small business. But I'm super grateful for that opportunity, super grateful for the balances and checks that they had in place, because I learned a lot from those. I learned that I need to think through my idea and have justification for every decision that I'm making, rather than making decisions based on excitement or based on opportunities that are not thought through. And that was the best thing that I learned from being part of, a reputable and a global nonprofit organization like CWS, is to take my time to make the decision, but also be quick in making decisions that will have an impact on the business and move the business forward.
Yeah, yeah. No, I always think about macro patience, micro speed. So how do you, patient for the long term, but in the moment, sometimes you have to make quick decisions. And as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you have to do a lot of those, especially during COVID. I'm sure your services were needed a lot during that time period.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're thankful that we had and continue to have relationships with partners in the community, like CAP, Penn Manor School Districts, to mention a few, Lancaster City Government, Lancaster General Hospital, just to name a few. We have a lot of great, partners. I don't like to call them customers, because they are partners, and they've been partners with us for many, many years. So I'm thankful for that opportunity. And yes, it's good to be able to make decisions when you want to make the decision on your own timing, but also it's good to have that patience and have that, thoughtful thinking about okay, yes, I want to make the decision, but how would it impact my business today, tomorrow, and 5 years from now?
Yeah. One of the coolest moments that I experienced was, and I can't remember the exact event, but there was an event that the city of Lancaster was hosting at the Ware Center. And as the person was speaking up front, there was a sign language interpreter in the front, and there were probably 3 or 4 different languages being spoken in real time in the audience. So there were translators next to an individual translating what was happening. And I looked around and I was just like, this is really cool. And I think that's one of the moments that made me super, super proud to be a Lancaster City resident, was to experience that in real time. What are some things that you think can be done to further the mission of being a welcoming city here in Lancaster?
Absolutely. And my city, our city, Lancaster City, is doing a great job, with Zaira Fallou's leadership and Melzi Carrasco. They are doing great job. They are taking the extra step to make sure that people are included in every conversation, and also for all voices to be heard around the table. For the community out there, I will say language access is not an afterthought. Have it in your plan from the beginning. When you start planning for the event, you need to consider, who are my audience, who I'm targeting in this community, how can I be inclusive and include everyone. Sometimes we get requests last minute, and when you are planning for something, you need to give it ample time, because you want to make sure that everyone has the best experience when they come to your event. So think of it from the beginning, invite people, be intentional, prepare yourself, prepare the space to be inclusive to everyone.
I love
And
that.
that's just a small tip about the things that we love to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what dietary restrictions do you have, as well as what would make this event more accessible for you? Just include it in the form from the beginning.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes. From
yeah.
the beginning.
What are some things that you're excited about for the future?
one of the things that I'm excited about is technology and the development of technology. Uh, there is a challenge, a threat with that, but also there is an opportunity.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to stay focused on is like understand how things are developing out there and how can we make services and make our community more accessible to
Yeah.
people, regardless of their language or cultural background.
Yeah. What sort of technology? I could go down the AI rabbit hole if you want.
If you're the expert, then we will have
Definitely
like a
not an
side,
expert, but I'll
we'll
geek
have
out
a
about
side
it with you if you
conversation.
want.
As example, like, if you think of cultures, and this is something that I tell my partners all the time, translating a flyer might not work for everyone. And the reason being, some refugee groups, due to wars and due to the circumstances, they may not have sufficient literacy level. So you could translate a flyer, but if people cannot read it, you just wasted your time. I tell customers jokingly, I love to take your money, but I don't want to take your money. I could translate a flyer, but like for this population, it might not work. So one of the things that we're looking at is how can we make multilingual video accessible and affordable to our partners. And this is something that, again, like excite me, thinking and exploring all the different options. So we can make it, we can make it affordable and accessible. So people eventually in our community will benefit from it. Because if you think about access to technology, not everybody has access to technology or understanding of how to utilize technology. If you think of literacy levels, people have different literacy levels and they might not be able to read your materials. Sharing materials, if you have a short video or a link to a video that people can share on WhatsApp or some other communication methods that they use as a community, that could go far versus, a paper that people might not be able to share as easy as, a short video.
And you worked on a cool project actually with the different police departments across Lancaster County. I believe it was 7 or 9 of them that you worked with.
We proudly work with the Lancaster Chiefs of Police Association. So all different police departments. I believe like 23 or 27. I might be off on the number,
but a lot more than what I said. Yeah, that's awesome.
We worked with the Lancaster Chiefs of Police Association, and they were great partners. It was, I would say, like heartwarming to see how the chiefs were interested in learning about the people and the residents of Lancaster County and how they can engage them and make them feel welcomed in Lancaster County. And I give a shout out to DA Adams for her support in that too.
And that was you guys did put together video in different languages to help some with police instructions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. We did the video project. And in the video project, one of the videos that we created is around police stops, how to act during a police stop. Again, a police stop in Iraq might be different than a police stop in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, might be different than a police stop somewhere else. So we wanted everyone to know what to expect and to know how to be safe during a police stop. And that's something that we were super proud of. We look forward to making more videos in the future and other cool tools that could be available for our residents, so everyone can be safe out there when they encounter situations that they need to deal with.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think that's a good example of how sometimes you have to go beyond just translating a flyer, right? A flyer with instructions of what to do during a police stop. Probably, maybe you'll read it, maybe not, but having a video and being familiar with that, what that interaction could and should look like, is, I think, very important, especially when there's a language barrier that exists there. So I think that's something that truly impactful for the community, and it's using technology in a different way.
100%. And another thing too to keep in mind is cultural understanding. You know, a lot of times people come from countries where police and government officials are the oppressors, and you do your best to avoid them. You do your best to stay away from them. And in that project, I wanted to build bridges, working with our partners to build bridges between the police and the community. I want people to see the police as a support, as a as a safe option to reach out to if you need help, rather than thinking like the police in the United States might be the same as the police in Iraq or any other places where people might not have that healthy or friendly relationship toward the police.
Yeah, yeah, and understanding it's a resource. Yeah, I know in the city of Lancaster, they're really adamant about making sure that folks feel comfortable coming forward when it's reporting a crime, whether it's, you have an interaction with any type of city employee, including police, that it is a friendly and welcoming interaction to make sure that they're seen as resources. They're here to help and solve problems, right? And having that positive interaction is important because, as you said, with referrals, right, we tell our friends and family what our experience is like. So the more positive that can spread around interactions like that, the more comfortable and safe people feel in our community.
Agreed. Yeah.
This episode is built by the Reimagining Our Community Giving Circle. The ROC Giving Circle is a way for the community to support BIPOC-owned small businesses through collective philanthropy. The Giving Circle is managed by the ROC cohort, and its purpose is to facilitate funding to initiatives that support BIPOC-owned small businesses. To learn more, visit roclancaster.org. So, as an entrepreneur, what is some advice that you'd give to some new citizens that are coming to the United States that want to become an entrepreneur? They want to start their own business. What is some advice that you give them?
I tell them to be engaged in their community and to learn as much as they can about this new community, because it's only going to make them better business owners. It's only going to make them better residents and better neighbors in this community. So this is something that I emphasize all the time, as you need to learn about your community. I remember when I first came, due to some of the challenges that I faced with employment, underemployment, housing, access to education, etc., I found myself isolating myself from the community because I felt less and I felt underappreciated, not because of something that somebody did or a one single experience, but in general, it felt that I'm not contributing to this community. But in reality, it's the opposite. Immigrants come to this society and come to this country, and they give a lot and they provide a lot. They fill gaps in employment. They pay taxes. They do a lot of things to support the community, and it's a two-way street, as they say. Like, they get services and they give back to their community. So don't be shy out there. If you can engage, if you can learn about how things are done here, it will make it a lot easier for you to do business.
Yeah, that's great advice, and that's probably good advice for anybody to engage with their community. That's the best way you're going to be a good whether it's a professional, an entrepreneur, or whatever you do, you're going to benefit greatly, and the community will benefit when you engage. So that's good advice for, I think, everyone for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any last words? What are some exciting things coming for you in the next few months, or anything exciting that you're working on?
Exciting. Every day is exciting day. Like I said, in the work that we do, you mentioned the police project. We're proud of the work that we did and do. We did the language justice work with the United Way. We did the COVID impact study with F&M and also the United Way, and we did the complete count committee work,
Yeah.
and we were able like to reach, almost 2,000 residents in 18 different languages.
Wow.
So all these cool projects are some of the projects that we work on, and we worked on. We have some research projects that are coming up that I'm super excited about. We are getting attention as a company that brings value to multilingual research and also multilingual community work, and we want to grow that part of the business. We want to be that asset for the community to be heard, to be included in those conversations. So this is something that excites us.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, while you're here, I'll give you some flowers. One of the things that I really appreciate about you is we talked about presence in the community. And I think as an entrepreneur, it goes beyond business for you. Your impact is definitely felt in Lancaster. Every time I see you, you're with your family or you're doing business or you're helping someone with their business. So I think Lancaster really appreciates you. We're a better community because of you and people like you that come in and invest your talents and invest value into others. So I just want to say that I appreciate that. And I know the community does as well.
Perfect. I appreciate it. And I was going to say, or all of the above. I usually do all three things or more at the same time. So I'm down to one phone right now. In recent years I had three phones, but now I'm down to one phone with technically two numbers on one phone. So I'm okay with that. I'm happy.
The Google numbers still being used.
Still functional.
Yeah. No, it's your definitely presence is felt, and it's cool to see you as an entrepreneur, a friend, a community member, and a dad and a husband, out here. So it's definitely a role model. Appreciate you.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. And that brings us to the end of the episode of Built by Us. A huge thank you to our amazing guest, Amer, for sharing the incredible journey and insights with us today. Amer, your dedication to fostering understanding and empowering communities through effective communication is truly inspiring. Your work with Communication Essentials and your commitment to supporting others highlights the profound impact of investing in one another. To our listeners, thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review Built by Us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us bring more incredible stories like Amer's to light. For more information on Assets and our mission to support underserved entrepreneurs, visit our website at assetspa.org. You can also follow us on social media for updates and more inspiring stories from our community. Until next time, remember that our differences are our strengths, and by fostering open conversations and supporting one another, we can build a brighter future together. I'm Jamie Arroyo, and this has been Built by Us. See you next time.
This is the Built by Us podcast, brought to you by Assets. Visit us at assetspa.org to learn more about the products and services we provide, and you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube.